lot of other things. And it's quite different what I do now since COVID, actually.
Tell me about your relationship with Jesus.
I knew you could ask that question and get away with it. It's funny. I don't know if this is a suggestion that things are changing in that way with people, or maybe it's just you. I don't know. But I remember I mentioned this in the book. Maybe this is 30 years back. An interview with the NME where the guy sat down and goes, "Hi, okay. Before we start, my editor has told me don't get him going on God." So that was off the table before. Anyway, so it's interesting that you asked that question. I would say for me that as far back as I remember, I've just had an uncommon interest in the figure of Christ. Now, I don't really know why. It seems to even predate when I became a choir boy in the local church, and then I started to learn more about that. I was just genuinely fascinated in the story of Christ. Not as a Christian, but just as someone who liked stories, I guess, as a young boy. It was just a kind of uncommon allure that just always remained with me. Even in church, when I would go to church, and the other kids, no one wanted to be there, and we were all in the choir, and everyone's just, I don't know. I was just intrigued by the stories, the biblical stories. And then when I went to art school and I got really into art and I got into, classical art, and I would look at these paintings, I would understand them, I would know them, I know what's going on there and I know what this story is. And so before any notions of, or spiritual ideas, let's say about the existence of God or something like that, there was always just this sort of haunted character of Christ sort of moving around the periphery of things that's always interested me, continues to interest me. I think my relationship to that story changes over time, different aspects of it. There are different parts to the story of Christ that I relate to. The Christ in the garden before he was crucified, kneeling and praying to a God that is no longer there, that has abandoned him, that has withdrawn completely. Just an ordinary man kneeling in the garden. These stories to me are extraordinarily beautiful, haunting, and just resonate through pretty much everything I do. Now, I don't call myself a Christian. I do go to church when I can. And I do get an enormous amount out of going to church that I don't get elsewhere. I get that because of the tradition of religion. I like the church. I like the idea of religion. I like that because it's like music in the sense that music sort of puts its arms around a whole bunch of disparate ideas that we have about things, spiritual ideas, things we love. It's somehow sort of brings it all together in a melody, let's say. And church to me is a similar thing, that it's all these thoughts that I have can be brought together, and all these yearnings and longings that I have can be contained within the walls of this institution. For all of its faults and corruptions and all the rest of it, there's something that exists there for me that I don't find anywhere else except in music. I'm slightly repelled, well, not repelled, but the idea, look, music is my church and all of that sort of stuff. I'm a bit more hardline than that. Church is my church.
Yeah.
But certainly music is the sort of secular, let's say, equivalent to. And actually, I think for the secular person, church is of great utility too, if you can get over the fact that whether God exists or not, what goes on in a church. I found one in London. I won't tell you the name of it because I like to go there on my own. But it is so beautiful, this church. It's so old. It's 900 years old last month. The organist is so off the planet. It's like unbelievable. And the choir, I think it's like an 8-piece choir that just sing this almost Gregorian kind of stuff. Within minutes, you're in tears in this place. It's just allowing a presence of being that I can't find outside those walls. And you're sort of ferried through from the kind of forgiveness through to communion, to a blessing at the end in the most gorgeous way. So I have a lot of time for that experience for me.
Yes.
You know.
I got to see you perform in a church in Brooklyn, I think. It was for the Harry Smith.
Oh, right.
You played
John the Revelator or something.
John the Revelator, and it was phenomenal.
Oh, really?
It was phenomenal. Everyone else were pretty much folkies. So your performance definitely stood out.
Yeah, it had an Old Testament feel to it.